So stay low does not mean stay low profile. Stay low means stay focused on your goals. We have so many distractions in our world today. Social media, comparing, somebody doubting you, somebody telling you can't do it. You don't have the right things, you need to do the job. Stay focused. We get so many distractions. So stay low is about putting your head down, putting in the hard work. There are no overnight successes. I didn't become an overnight success. I put 30 years of grit into my career and to my life. And so you need to stay low and put in the hard work.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to KindredCast, where we shine a light on the people and ideas shaping our future. KindredCast is a production of Kindred Media, powered by LionTree.
Welcome to KindredCast. I'm LionTree's Rosie Kurmaniak. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Maha Abouelenein, the dynamic CEO and founder of Digital Savvy and a powerhouse in the world of strategic communications. With over 3 decades of experience, Maha has been instrumental in transforming communication strategies for global giants, high-growth startups, and high-profile individuals. She's also the author of the forthcoming book, 7 Rules of Self-Reliance. We'll be diving into her journey, her insights on personal branding, and how self-reliance can be a game changer in today's world. Hi, Maha. Thank you for being here, and thank you for joining LionTree.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Amazing. Well, we're very excited to jump into some questions. You have had an incredible journey in the communications industry. Take us back to the beginning of your success. What inspired you to start Digital Savvy? And what gaps were you aiming to fill in the market?
Yeah, I think I've always been infatuated with the news and telling stories. And when I was a little girl, I really wanted to grow up and be a reporter. And I envisioned, I'm Egyptian, standing live at the pyramids, reporting live from the pyramids. And so I really loved news and understanding how stories were told. And when I was in college, I actually was an intern at CBS affiliate in Minnesota. And I loved that vibe of being in the newsroom when information was coming in over the wire before they packaged it and broadcasted it to the world, and how they had to think about information coming in before they shared it with the world. And so I was always infatuated with communications and storytelling. And I decided to work on the other side of it and actually advise people on how to tell their stories, how to find their narratives, and how to be really good at communicating, because it's the thing that connects us. It's the thing that moves us emotionally and with other people, either in business or professionally. So I had been working for a company I actually got a job as an office manager for this billionaire. But I went back to him and I told him I really want to do my love communications. I want to start a communications firm. And so he's like, okay, let's start a company together. And then we built Weber Shandwick in the Middle East. I opened 18 offices in the Middle East. And then after building a business and understanding how it works, I decided to do it for myself. So I became an entrepreneur, not because I knew how to run a business or a company, but I just loved communications and I wanted to be in control of what I did every day. And that's kind of how the concept got born of me starting my own communications firm to help people tell their stories, find their narratives, and build and protect their reputations.
Do you remember your first account?
Actually, my first account, I was in Cairo, was Coca-Cola. So I had known some different people in the market and really knew this brand, and I was a Coca-Cola drinker. So I really loved the product and I believed in the product, and I was so excited because it's a flagship brand of many years, and we did a lot of public policy and communications and community outreach for them, and I worked for them for more than 10 years.
Can you talk about what's changed since then? I mean, you have a remarkable, we're going to go into some compare and contrast, but you have a remarkable ability to reflect on what marketing and communications was when you started versus what it is today. What's the biggest difference? And I'll put a big bookmark in the middle, which is social media happens. So
yeah, I mean, I think we live in real time, right? We consume information in real time. We want to understand things in real time. And so I feel like companies, brands, businesses, CEOs need to react to that. Like, how do consumers consume information? And if so, how do we need to deliver it to them? If most people are getting their news through social media. Most people are not Googling through Google. They're Googling through TikTok and other platforms to search for things. So when you're thinking about marketing or positioning or brand, you have to really be in touch with what culture's doing, what consumers are doing, and then meet them where they are.
There is a big compare and contrast of doing marketing and communications for a global brand like Coca-Cola versus a personal brand, any individual or group of individuals. There's a big difference between a Western approach and a Middle East approach. So what would you do for one and not the other? What do you have to be mindful of in terms of nuances and approaches to having each one of those be successful, knowing that each one of them is, in many respects, kind of trying to cross over. Global brands want to interact with influencers, and influencers want to be global.
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple, actually. People follow people. They don't follow companies. So I feel people understand the importance of building your personal brand. And if you are an entrepreneur or a CEO or an executive at a company, you need to think about your personal brand. And I want you to think of personal branding not as being a social media influencer. And personal branding is not about self-promotion. Personal branding is about leadership. Personal branding is about your reputation. So like companies think about how to promote themselves and build their consumers and build their reputation, people need to do that as well, because people are inspired by the leaders behind a company. What was their vision? What's the culture like? What's it like to work there? How does that company see the future? What are the steps they're taking to build and grow the business and bring value to society or the community? And when you make that mind shift that you're not talking about self-promotion, look at me, I know things, you're thinking about your reputation. Don't you want to care about your reputation? Everyone should be obsessed with their reputation. If you work at a company and you want to get a promotion, you need to have a good personal brand. Are you a collaborator? Are you a team player? Are you a listener? Are you a problem solver? What are the traits that you're bringing to the company? And that's your personal brand, i.e. reputation. If you're an entrepreneur, if you have a good personal brand or a good reputation, you'll be able to attract the right talent. You'll be able to attract investors. You'll be able to attract the right strategic partners. So investing in your personal brand is not something that just companies who are brands do. People need to do it, and they need to know how to do it in today's modern age.
You sound like a leadership coach as opposed to a communication strategy expert. But how do those two things intersect and intertwine? Because I can think of myself as having a leadership and a personal brand inside of my corporation where it's very easy to sort of manage my own reputation, but it's much, much harder when it's on a screen and you can't control the clicks and the comments and everything that comes along with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a CEO of a strategic communications firm, but I also do a lot of business development work. I come from a 30-year career working in marketing, communications, public policy. And so it's understanding how to connect with consumers and connect with audiences, which every leader needs to know how to do. It's not necessarily a PR skill, but it's more like a leadership skill. How do you inspire your team members to follow your vision? How do you grow your team members? So being able to have a personal brand that's allowing you to connect with your team is critical.
Within any organization or any group, leadership is awkward these days. CEOs are often too much in the limelight or often scrutinized. And then, certain other team members we want to highlight more, right? So it's almost the reverse of what we were doing what was happening in the 80s and 90s, where we had very big, iconic supermodels, CEOs, et cetera. And now we want to elevate everyone else. Like, how have you seen that shift over time, and how can you, as someone who is up and coming in your career, sort of build your brand to promote yourself as a leader, even though you don't have the creds and the quals to go and do something?
Yeah, first of all, I love that. I feel like a lot of businesses that get it right are the ones that understand that there's not just one spokesperson for the company. Everybody is a brand ambassador. So making sure that you're spending time teaching everyone in the company, what do we stand for? What are our values? So they can be a good ambassador for the company and build their personal brands, because that helps your reputation. CEOs who are threatened by people on their teams that are building their personal brands have it wrong. Yeah. They need to know that that's good for their business, because the most important thing that you just said was, what do the other team members need to be doing? They need to be building relationships. They need to be building networks. They need to be imagine coming to a company with your own relationships. That's valuable. Your employer values that you would be able to come to the table with something. And so that something should be relationships, having a network of people that you've been building over time, experience, and skills.
Is it easy today to be separate and aside from your brand? Meaning, when I walk around, am I always LionTree, or do I have a chance to just personally be Rosie? In particular, when most of my life is online. Not much of mine is, but
yeah, that's a really good question. So I think a lot about it. Like, a lot of people don't want to be on social media because they don't want to attach, your name and your title go hand in hand, right? So a lot of people attach you to who you are and what you do. But here's the thing. You control what you say and how you say it and when you put it out there. So your personal Instagram, for example, account doesn't have to show your personal life, right? You control what you say, how you say it, what you want people to know about you. And if you do want to express your ideas and opinions that have nothing to do with your business, you can do that. And I feel like people who want to build their personal brands outside their corporate persona, people have other interests. They do other things that fill their cup. They're tennis players, they're yoga instructors, they're photography enthusiasts, and they might want to use their social media platforms to do that. So your identity doesn't necessarily have to be your career, but you're the one who controls that. You're the one that drives that. And I really want to encourage listeners to take control of it by doing it, because if you don't, you can imagine that someone else will do it for you. And they'll say, oh, Maha only does comms and PR. Well, now, if you follow me, you will see I travel, I'm a tennis player, I'm a dog mom, I'm Auntie Maha, and I put out what I want people to know about me because we're humans. We're not just one thing. We are not our jobs. And I feel like a lot of people don't just want to be their jobs. Like we've learned that through the pandemic and last couple years that we need other things to fill our cups and to be, mentally challenged and, really learn new things that make us feel good about ourselves. And I feel like that carries on to how you represent your personal brand as well.
I think storytelling is an important part of this, and it crosses over a little bit into self-promotion, right? Storytelling kind of feels good because we're recapturing an event or something that has happened to us or how we want to architect something. Self-promotion, it feels like we're doing a commercial for ourselves. So can you talk about storytelling and how you guide people to kind of put that into their strategy?
So the way to avoid your storytelling seem like self-promotion is you have to think about a couple of things. One is, who is my audience? Who am I talking to? And then what do they want to know? What do they need to know? And then create value for them. So you should be creating stories that are meaningful to your audience, not meaningful to you. So I think that's the difference between people who are posting and sharing things that are self-promotion versus like, hey, what does my audience actually care about? Do they want communications tips or do they want leadership tips? And for me, just using myself as an example, the best way to know is simple. Ask them. Research on the internet is for free. You can just ask a question, find out what the insights are, ask people, what do you guys care about? Do you want this or that? And that's the easiest real-time data that you can get to find out what do people really care about. Like, I'm following you, Rosie, because I want you to give me advice on 1, 2, or 3, or I like following your travels or what you wear or how you cook or your work life. What is it like coming to work every day in New York? You have to just ask your audience and then create value for your audience. Like, you have to continuously be thinking about what's important to them and deliver that.
But speaking of audience, social media often incentivizes a broad reach, right? But the most effective strategies or places where you can have incredible impact is in the personal connection and the resonance that you might have, which is hard to replicate because usually personal connection is one-on-one. How have you balanced achieving broad distribution, sort of that what you talked about, which is being valuable to an audience, but presumably many people just want it to be as big of an audience as possible, so they go very wide, versus being very, again, authentic but personal and trying to have something that's personal in a digital environment?
Yeah, I think if you want to create a connection with your audience, you have to build that level of trust. Just like any relationship, whether it's one-to-one or one-to-many, they need to have a sense of trust. Like, I trust you. You are being authentic to me. Who you are is who you say you are. You are not faking it till you make it. You are not posting and sharing or storytelling through LinkedIn or any other platform for the sake of the views and the likes. Like, I really need to see that because we see through that. You know how it works. Like, think about the people you follow on social media. Why do you follow them? Do they inspire you? Do they make you laugh? Do you gain something? You need to be thinking of that same way. Always put yourself in the shoes of the consumer and think about, am I being honest about what I'm trying to share? Like, who I am in real life is who I am on social media. You have to have that consistency. And that's the difference between connecting with your audience and building that trust and not doing that.
How does that translate into an approach for a large corporation? Because they too want to be personal, but reach is truly important.
Show your values. The number one thing a company can do to build trust with consumers is to show their values, because that's what people care about. Is this a good company? Do they treat their employees well? Are they doing good for society? Are they doing good for the environment? What are the things that this company is doing that's different than other people? People are conscious consumers. They really care about putting their money behind products and companies that are really conscious about the way they treat their people. And you can bet that the minute they treat employees poorly or do something or have a bad misstep in the market, consumers will easily take their dollars and put it somewhere else. We live in an economy that's full of choice. We live in a world where we can pick anything, anytime, at anywhere, at any place, at any moment. So you really need to work hard to make sure that you're constantly building a good reputation, thinking about how to keep that consumer trust, and being consistent about it.
It's kind of funny because long ago we used to do things based on criteria, right? Coke or Pepsi was based on how it tasted to you. But now Coke or Pepsi is what do those companies stand behind and what are their values? It's a much higher bar than it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's complex, right? There's geopolitical implications. There's, unions involved. There's a lot of issues that are impacting consumers' decisions today. But like I said, it's a choice economy. We can make different choices. And the power of the people exists. And that wisdom of the crowd is something that people will follow. And anything that you do can spread like wildfire on social. So you have to really be careful, because if you make a misstep or if you make a mistake and a crisis occurs and you don't respond the right way or you don't respond quickly enough, that vacuum of information can lead to misinformation, rumors, and irreparable damage. So you really need to be very careful about what you say, how you say it, and who you say it to.
I want to switch gears a little bit to sort of some industry dynamics, because LionTree is very deeply embedded into the media landscape.
Of course.
What changes are you seeing in media, technology, communications, the intersection of them, cross-market dynamics between regions like the Middle East and the U.S., not versus traditional media 10 years ago, but today versus where we may be 5 or 10 or 15 years from now?
Okay, I'm not a bold predictor of the future, but I can tell you things that I think everyone is aware of that's happening. Obviously, the influx of AI coming into the market, how that's changing behaviors of companies, how it's accelerating, science, how it's accelerating how we do business. I feel that's going to have a profound impact. It's also something that in the Middle East, I spent a lot of time in Dubai and in Saudi and in Egypt. They're very digitally savvy. They're very tech forward. They have been kind of in the forefront. I think the UAE has had a minister of AI for more than 10 years, long before anyone was talking about AI. So I feel like they understand the need to be in front of what's now and next happening, not just in tech, but how it can impact many, many industries. I think, social media is continuing to dominate. Businesses that aren't using e-commerce and direct-to-consumer marketing are going to fall behind by using traditional avenues. And I just feel like we need to be thinking about the power of the influencer and the micro-influencer is here to stay and hasn't even scratched its surface. And I feel like a lot of people think that's over and done. I feel like, no, that's still something that you will listen to a mother on social media before you will listen to an ad on television. So I feel like understanding who do we listen to, who do we care about is becoming a smaller circle of people that we listen to based on their products and recommendations, their lifestyle, their brands, how we connect with them. So I think that's another one that will continue to grow. The other thing, I do talk a little bit about it in my book, is we're living longer. So we are healthier. So we need to be thinking about our finances in ways that we never had to think about before. We need to be thinking about our wellness in ways that we never had to think about before. We have to be thinking about, taking time off and relaxing and doing nothing takes effort. It really does, because we live in an always-on world. So I feel like there's going to be a huge trend in the market, which is going to play into media and social about wellness and how we deal with not just our relationship with technology, but our relationship with how we take care of ourselves, how do we take care of our mental health. And I think that's going to be on the forefront of a lot of companies and a lot of brands in marketing as well.
How do you think AI augments information flow? Will it help us because we're being more informed, or will it hurt us because we have to sift through a lot more information and data?
I think it's somewhere in the middle, to be honest with you. I don't know, but I feel it's somewhere in the middle where we haven't seen how it's going to play out. What spot does it fit in the best? But I feel like 100% anyone who's adopting AI technology through their day-to-day work now is seeing the benefits of how it saves time. What are the things that can be used as a supplement to what they're doing? Like I work in the communications industry. We use it every day. It doesn't do our work for us. It doesn't, drive what we're doing, but we definitely refer to it to help us speed up the processes and everything from editing videos to, finding clips to taking transcripts. So it's definitely something that I think is extremely beneficial for me and my industry, and anyone who works in communications or media understands the benefits as well.
I reflect on what we think of media and media from, way back when was Paramount, Disney, Marvel, these sort of classic characters
Big
that
companies.
were presented on the big screen in big companies, with Hollywood as its epicenter. And now we have a sort of a competing pool of content, if you will, which is Instagram and Facebook and social media more broadly. Are those two things going to come together at some point? We've seen Hollywood sort of dive into short form. And in many respects, some influencers, to the extent that they become global and have high viewerships, kind of edge into Hollywood, if you will.
Yeah.
Will that become one? Are they frenemies? Do they want to protect their territories and turfs? Or if we go forward much into the future, not next year or the year after, Hollywood versus social media, do they merge together?
I think Hollywood and social media coming together is going to be a brilliant move. So what Hollywood has learned from the impact of social media is the importance of direct-to-consumer. So now celebrities don't need to go through the Hollywood studios. They can go direct to consumer and create content. But there's all these players that are coming in, and I feel like they're going to merge and do something very powerful. So you think of the Joe Rogans, the Kelsey brothers, the Alex Coopers. They built their brands from themselves and became media companies, right? Which are getting great deals, huge audiences, huge viewership, direct to consumer through social. So I feel like they're obviously getting distribution. I know Kelsey Brothers through Wondery and Geo Media. Now they're getting distribution through those media companies. But I feel like I even look at what Gary Vaynerchuk is doing with VaynerWatt. Like he's created this new production company where they're going to take digital and social, integrate it into the Hollywood model, and build brands through media. I mean, all you see like Mattel and you see Barbie and all these brands are becoming the actual media outlets themselves and the media studios and storytellers themselves. I think we're up for a very exciting time actually with the merging of how Hollywood has been operating for decades and how social media, because consumers want it. They want that traditional Hollywood experience, but they also want to consume it through their phones or through streaming. So I feel like the merging is going to happen, and it's going to be a great thing for the consumer because the consumer always wins when competition comes into play. And so I feel like I'm excited about what's going to happen, and I feel like it's just getting started. I mean, look what the NFL's doing. Like you can watch any game on any platform at any time. I think the Olympics had a huge success with Peacock. I find like that's something that just taught us a lot about how consumers operate. They want to watch 20 sports at the same time and have access to it. And I think the media companies will respond to what the consumers' needs are.
We talk about that as the flywheel, right? At the beginning is sort of like is the IP from your example around Barbie, but around it is merchandising and events and ticketing and all the things that you traditionally would have just thought of as a doll or a product sort of turns into something that you can have an ecosystem around.
Yep.
And it doesn't necessarily need to be a doll. It can be a person, a brand, a logo, anything.
100%.
I brought up a little bit the concept of experiential, and post-COVID, live events have had a significant comeback. We're seeing it from a trends perspective in terms of investing in experiential and live events. How are you seeing marketing and communications and strategies evolving around experiential to the extent that digital and physical are now married together?
People love going to events. I mean, when it got taken away from us, we knew that we wanted to be back, but we didn't know how much we loved it. And now there's levels of, exclusive VIP, getting access. We've seen the Eras Tour. We know concerts, sports events. People want to connect in person. And I feel like brands who really know how to do experiential well, like look at what happened at the US Open the last couple of weeks, like brands were really active in creating those experiences, creating an opportunity for you to create content, engage with your consumers, maybe have a hospitality program for your most loyal customers. It's the one thing that gives people access. And what do people love in life? Getting access to something and being able to experience it in real life.
Will there be a premium service for something like that in the future where
Always.
If you get access to an exclusive event, but it happens to be digital, is that an uncharted territory in terms of, to your point about VIP access, exclusive access, and kind of feeling like you're part of a community or a culture, even if it's online?
Yeah, I definitely think. And I feel like, digital tokens or digital access gives people an extra layer of collectability. It gives them a way of like collecting something, but also getting access to something based on ownership. Like that's why private clubs are making a big comeback. Like people want to belong to something and they want to feel that it's the community and group that they're paying to get into to spend time with. And so I feel like that merging, and even people are doing it on a global event scale, not just, local stuff. And I feel like it's only going to continue to grow. And people want that seamless experience of experiencing a brand in real life. And it just makes them more loyal to that brand. They end up, coming to spend time with the brand. They spend money there. They get the merch. They engage with other people who are fans of that product or service or sports team, whatever it might be. And I just feel like I love going to events. Don't you love going to events?
Yes.
I'm like, see, my favorite thing to do on my calendar is like, when's my next game? Like, when's my next thing that I'm doing? And it gives you something to look forward to. And it's a different experience than being in front of our screens all day. So I'm ready for my next event.
How do you think that part of the appeal of events is also seeing cultures or geographies or places that you haven't been able or couldn't see on your own? How do you think people are approaching the geographic borders? Meaning, does the Middle East have a strategy towards attracting Western eyeballs, and similarly, does the West have a strategy towards exposing to the Middle East or other regions?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but during the summer, like I like to go on social and go on vacation with all my friends because I'm like, oh, I've never seen that in Portugal. I didn't see that in there. I'm like, so it's the same thing, right? So like having that window into other people's holidays teaches me about the culture, about the people, about the food, about what to see, about where to go. And I think a lot of governments are getting really savvy about tourism campaigns to lure people in. Saudi's been doing a tremendous effort to tell people a new narrative about Saudi, about what to explore in the desert and the food and the culture. So I feel like a lot of the governments that understand it well understand you need to be thinking like a company or a personal brand and market your country. What to come see in Dubai? Why should you go to Abu Dhabi? Abu Dhabi's being really aggressive on this front. F1 races, the NBA games that they're doing. So I feel like every country knows that people want to travel. People want to see new places. And, it's easy access. You can fly anywhere at any time. So really, they know that people have specific purchasing dollars to spend, and they want to lure them into their country. And so that's why you see so many people doing these tourism marketing campaigns, and even cities are doing them to bring people in. I was at the US Open a couple weeks ago, and there was an ad for DC. It was like, there's only one DC, or I couldn't even understand the ad. And I was like, wait, is that for DC, like Washington, DC? I'm like, they're trying to promote the city and bring people back. And I thought that was so smart.
Yeah. I think that's so interesting to think of countries as companies.
Yeah.
And it's harder from a U.S. perspective because we're so diverse. And that's not to say that other countries aren't diverse, but to just think of it as an enterprise.
They have to.
And what do you want to highlight about, back to your point, your values, your culture, and sort of bringing out the best of a country is something that we kind of hid in the past.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in my career doing public policy, teaching governments how to communicate like companies. You have to share your policies so that citizens love you and care about what you're trying to do to help them. You have to promote what you're doing and be transparent. Are you having a website showing everything you're doing? What's happening on the cabinet? What are the things that are going to impact their lives? Because government policies impact everyday citizens. So governments, like people, need to be proactive in sharing with them and be transparent about what's happening. I mean, look at Paris and the Olympics. Like, that was a phenomenal communications campaign for that city. And that people really wanted to go to the Olympics because it was in a city that was accessible. It had great food. It had great tourist sites. And, a lot of the Olympics the two before didn't have fans, so it was an engaging time. But it was a great PR moment and marketing moment for the city of Paris. And I feel like LA will also be huge because people want to come to California. They wanted that LA vibe. And so I feel LA's already turned the page on that and starting to promote the city and all the kind of things that people can enjoy when they come to LA. And it's a huge marketing moment for businesses and brands alike that are based there.
And what a remarkable way to bring about unity, right? One of the things that you felt from Paris was how much everyone from France and living in Paris enjoyed it. And it brought together something that at the moment when they did the opening ceremonies, everyone was very disparate. And they made it a point to say, this is the only event where we can bring people together from every country around the world. It was incredible from a unification standpoint, but also a point of national pride for Paris and France.
Yeah, even for Team USA. Like, everyone was really glued to watching and promoting their country. And I really I love sports in general.
I wanted to jump to your books. I know
Yes.
It is a terrific book, and also you must be very proud of having formulated it through your years and years of both personal and professional experience. So what inspired you to write it? What do you hope readers will take away from it?
Yeah, so I wrote my first book called The 7 Rules of Self-Reliance: How to Stay Low, Keep Moving, Invest in Yourself, and Own Your Future. And this book is not about the what, like what you should do in communications. This book is about the how to create value for other people, how to build your personal brand, how to build your own networks and relationships, how to be a long-term player, which is very valuable in business, how to not be a waiter and to create the opportunities you want to see in your life. And when someone asks me about the concept of self-reliance, a lot of people think self-reliance is about being independent and not needing anybody. And this book is actually teaching you the opposite. My concept of self-reliance, I'm trying to rebrand and get people to rethink about, is if you rely on yourself and you invest in yourself and you know things, you're valuable not only for yourself, but for other people. And so I need to rely on myself to know things. I don't want to be left behind because I'm not learning things and I don't know things. So reliance is getting yourself skills, getting yourself tools, getting yourself experience. And imagine how powerful each one of us could be if we knew how to do things and relied on ourselves before waiting for permission from other people or not doing something because we were afraid that people would say, well, what are they going to think if I do that? So this book is about really relying on yourself, being resourceful, having skills so that you can be valuable to other people, you can collaborate with other people, and you can be a net contributor to society.
How do you get there? If there was a step-by-step guide to getting to the arrival of self-reliance, what are some of the key elements?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about 7 rules and how to get there. One of them, which is super easy for everyone who's listening to do right now, is to be curious, to be a lifelong learner, right? Being a lifelong learner is something I've always done, but it's easy to do. Like, YouTube is for free. Podcasts are for free. Talking to someone to learn from them is for free. So one of the first ways to be self-reliant is to try to educate yourself and invest in yourself by knowing things. Another way to be self-reliant is to build relationships, right? If I have to tap into your network because I need something, then I'm on the back foot, right? So I always talk about putting deposits in other people's trust banks. Build a relationship, build a network, serve your network. Nurture your network. Your network is not there for you to do favors for you. You should have a network so that you're building and adding value to them. And I always ask somebody when I meet them, like, how can I help you? What do you care about? Because if I can create value for you, Rosie, by knowing what you care about, I've just put a deposit in your trust bank. So I have to spend time thinking about, what do you care about? What are some problems you're trying to solve? Is there somebody that I can introduce you to that might bring value to you? That's creating value for you. And that's something where you should do it because you have good intentions, not because you want something in return. We live in a world where we want to tap to pay. We want to download the whole series. We want transactions. We want everything now, now, now. And I've done my entire career, 30 years, of being a long-term player, of playing the long game, of trying to be good to other people, helping other people, bring value to them. Because not only does that bring value to you, it also brings value to me because now I've got the experience, I got the relationships, and I can learn from those experiences. I've countless times have either done things for people without getting paid or wanting to just go to a relationship and bring value to them genuinely. It came back tenfold for me.
I think it's also important that you can also ask back of it. That's what relationships are for.
Exactly.
You have value that you can uniquely give to somebody else and them to you. And I loved one of the quotes from the end of it. It was a different concept, but the end of self-reliance rule number 4. But it says, "Why invest in yourself? Because to give value, you must be valuable." But a lot of people think of value as transactional, right? Like if I have to ask something of you, then you're doing me a favor, and then I have to do a favor for you. It's sort of a quid pro quo, right? But part of this is just if you develop yourself and if you develop a skill set that's uniquely valuable to somebody else, that is something that's authentic but also transactional. It's a little bit of both, but people feel a little uncomfortable doing that. Like, how do you get out of the interpersonal conflict of, thinking of other people as transactions?
It's first of all, it's a muscle you need to build, and you need to build a muscle of how can I create value for other people without wanting something in return. Yeah. So that's hard because I'm like, well, if I introduce A to B and then they do business and leave me out, then what did I get out of it, right? That's the thinking that won't get you where you need to be. So you need to be selective about who you serve and why you serve them, and you need to be strategic about it. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. I born and raised in Minnesota, lived here until I was 27, moved overseas for 23 years, living in Egypt and Dubai, moved back during the pandemic. I spent a significant amount of my career in Egypt and Dubai. And I know the market very well because I lived there. I worked for the ruler of Dubai. I ran communications and for Google and Netflix, and I worked for a big business in Egypt. And so somebody came to me and said, I'd really love to learn more about doing business in Dubai. And it's a market I know. So that was one little tidbit that one person shared with me. This is a very big entrepreneur businessman who, I tell the story in the book, who does business in other parts of the world but had never untapped this market before. And everybody knows this is one of the greatest economic blocks that's booming right now. Investment is big, it's growing, and it's an exciting place to be. And so why don't I create value for this person by saying, next time, if you want to go to the region, I will take you. Because that's going to create value for him. He's going to learn about the market. He's going to understand how to do business there. I'm going to introduce him to some of the right people, making sure he lands properly, maybe organize some press, podcasts, some business dinners. I'm going to create value for him, not knowing or wanting anything in return, because I know that this is an important person that, maybe he's going to go to the Middle East and love it and want to do business there, but maybe he won't. But I already just made a deposit in his trust bank. And then a week, a year, a month, 10 years from now, I might want something, and he's going to remember, hey, Maha really took me to the region, spent time with me, introduced me to all these people. She created value for me without asking for anything in return. And I actually ended up doing that. And this is a person now that not only do I do business with, I do a lot of projects with, and we work with my company. And all because I took the decision to create value for him based on one little piece of information that he shared with me. And I feel like that's what I want people to be listening to, those signals. You can rely on yourself to create value for yourself and others. And that's how I built my business and I built my career, and I've done it for other people. Being a super connector is very valuable. You don't need to get something in return. You need to be doing good business for people. You need to be helping people. And when you do that, I promise you, people won't burn your bridge. They won't use and abuse you. They will understand your intentions. They will understand you are really trying to create value in a meaningful way. It's one of the tenets of being self-reliant. It's like knowing I can do something. I can create value for somebody instead of waiting for somebody else. One last thing I'll say is a lot of times, we have to make decisions, right? And sometimes we outsource our decisions to other people. We're like, I want someone to decide for me, or, outsourcing your decisions to somebody else is something you should trust to do yourself. And so this book will give you a lot of confidence on how to do that. Like, no one knows what's best for you, Rosie, but you. And you can take those decisions, and you can just rely on yourself. And it's a muscle of giving confidence, trusting your gut. And so I feel like a lot of times, we do know the answers. We just don't listen to them.
Back to helping others, you have to do it enough to get comfortable with it. Because the first time it feels one way, the second time it feels another way, the third time, or however long it takes, it sort of snaps, right?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a muscle. Once you get good at it, it's addicting, because you're like, oh, I just met this person. If I connect him to this, that might be really fun. And maybe 1 + 1 = 11 and do something cool. And it becomes something that you become very valuable to your network, and how you can operate your business and your brand.
Separate concept that you talk about in the book is staying low and keeping moving,
yes.
Which one shouldn't misinterpret to think about as hiding.
Yes.
What do you mean by that,
yes.
and how can you enact it?
Yeah, so stay low, keep moving is a term I heard, 25 years ago. And it's a military term, actually, where you want you to crouch down on your stomach and stay low and inch forward and keep moving so you don't get hit by arsenal. But I took it for a metaphor for life, right? So stay low does not mean stay low profile. Stay low means stay focused on your goals. We have so many distractions in our world today. Social media, comparing, somebody doubting you, somebody telling you can't do it. You don't have the right things, you need to do the job. Stay focused. We get so many distractions. So stay low is about putting your head down, putting in the hard work. There are no overnight successes. I didn't become an overnight success. I put 30 years of grit into my career and to my life. And so you need to stay low and put in the hard work. If you put your head down and if you put the hard work in, you will get the results. So that's what stay low means. Keep moving. Everybody has failures. Everybody has setbacks. Everybody has bad days, economic downturns. You get fired from your jobs. Things happen. It's happened to me. So my point is, if you want to be self-reliant, you have to understand you're going to have to stay low and you're going to have to keep moving, because life is messy. And we know that. And I feel like it's the first rule of the book, because it's the one okay, I got to get this. If I really want something, I got to put my head down. I got to turn off the distractions, and I need to try to stay moving.
Do you think you need a very clear definition of your goals and your values before you can move through each of these 7 rules? Understanding that our goals and values change all the time, but you do need to have sort of a center and a core to be able to hustle, to have values, to be self-reliant. There needs to be something around it to center yourself.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's hard to define, what is my purpose? What am I driven to do? And I didn't wake up doing this. It took me years before I decided my mission was to help people communicate better, or to find what it is that I'm good at, or that my contributions are going to be to myself and to the world. And I feel like you do need to have a starting point, but it's something that you should be agile to changing and flexible to changing based on okay, I tried this, I didn't like it, it's not who I am. Or, there are no wrong decisions in life. You take a decision with the information and data you have at that time, play it out. If it doesn't work, you know what? You can always change course. And so I feel like, you don't need to have it to set these rules in place. You can take one rule and run with it, or you can say, okay, I'm going to adopt the lifelong learning rule, or I'm going to adopt one of the rules is to treat your reputation like a currency. And we talked a lot about reputation and personal brand today. But what's its worth? What's its value? And you need to honor your reputation and your name and treat it as something so valuable. Because when you rely on your name to get ahead in life and to do things for other people, it's powerful and it's unstoppable. And so really thinking about your reputation, because no one is doing it for you. You need to drive it.
We talk about arc of life at LionTree. What does that mean in the context of an individual brand, and how do you leave a legacy around yourself for the future and for your business in particular?
I think for me, I can only talk about my experiences. I want to put my head on the pillow every day knowing that I was a good person, I was an empathetic leader, I was a good sister, I was a good aunt. It has nothing to do with my professional accolades. It's all about being a good person and a good human, because I feel like I want to be a pleasure to work with. I want people to want to work with me. And actually, when I hire people, we always look at skills and experiences and talent. And I'm like, And everyone who walks in the door at my company, we're like, you have to be a pleasure to work with. I don't care how smart you are or what kind of a rock star, but if you're not nice to work with, we want people who don't disrupt the culture, that bring our culture to life. And I feel like those are the things I measure myself on. One of the stories I share in the book is chapter 7 is no regret. So my mother had MS and my dad had ALS. I had two parents that were seriously disabled throughout most of my life while I was building my career in Egypt when I didn't really know the language. And I feel like the lessons I learned from that process of being patient and living with dignity and teaching people that, don't sweat the small stuff because it's all small stuff is actually quite true.
I love the thought of your parents' legacy is now your legacy.
Yeah, I think it matters. I have a niece and nephew, and I wrote this book mainly for them. I want them to understand the importance of doing good in this world, and business accolades are great, but at the end of the day, it's, like I said, how you treat people and what you can do to really stay low and keep moving and do the best that you can to invest in yourself and own your future, because I feel like everybody has the power to do it.
Amazing. Well, that's a great thought to end our session on. But why don't you tell us about your book, where we can find you, when does the book come out, et cetera?
Thank you, Rosie, so much. So the book is called 7 Rules of Self-Reliance. It's available anywhere you buy books. Amazon is probably the fastest and easiest way for you to get it. It is out on October 8th, and you can follow me on LinkedIn, my name, Maha Abouelenein, or on Instagram, Maha Gaber.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more KindredCast conversations from leaders in business and beyond.